Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So it is true, Bethesda are introducing playable ghouls. That is, you will be able to become a ghoul in Fallout 76 as of next year. So that's a huge announcement from the Xbox Showcase today, and very cool. Very excited for that one. So, we're going to jump into a few details of this, but I have a little disclosure before we dive in. I know some of you guys are going to be excited. I'm very excited for this myself. A couple of weeks ago, Bethesda very kindly invited me to a press event down at their offices in London. It was a really good time. Got a little bit of lunch and a whole bunch of presentations about upcoming content that is going into Fallout 76 in the next little while. So that was really cool. Got to meet a few creators I've met before again, a whole bunch of creators I had not met before. Got to meet some folks from Bethesda that I have spoken to, and a whole bunch I hadn't spoken to. And including got to meet John Null, who's creative director on Fallout 76. And yeah, it was really fun. It's not very often gamers like us get to sit down and actually talk to the people who make the games that we play and sort of discuss what's coming and additions, and it was very cool to sit down and talk to the people who actually work on 76. It's not an opportunity that rolls around very often, so hugely grateful to Bethesda for inviting me down for that. Also, I got to see some stuff like this, the Ghoul, a little bit early, and yeah, I've been really excited to talk about this, so definitely very cool. So, speaking of, what do we know about this? Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff that Bethesda shared with us at the event, and yeah, very cool. Players obviously have been wanting to become ghouls for a long time, basically since at least Fallout 3. And yeah, I've heard people talking about how cool would it be if we could, and so on and so forth for a long old time. And yeah, we've had mods that will allow us to do some of that, but this is different. This is not just a visual change, it's a full gameplay change to your character. You will become a ghoul and you will get unique mechanics to go along with that. So, this is currently slated for release early next year, so that's early 2025. As of right now, Bethesda said it's going to be a standalone release, which is an interesting observation, because I would have thought it would probably, given the timings here, speculation a little bit, but line up for their March update. See, 76 gets updated usually about 4 times a year, March, June, September and December-ish. I would have assumed, given the timing of this announcement, that March is when they were aiming for. But if it's a standalone release, it begs the question whether or not this is in place of the March update, this will be the March update, or it's in addition to those updates. Don't really know. It's a bit open-ended at the moment. But still, definitely early next year anyway. So, ins and outs of this new playable ghoul, becoming a ghoul mechanic. They're calling it a ghoul class because it fundamentally changes the way in which you play. Although Fallout 76 doesn't have classes, so you know, I think it's more of a case of trying to express that this will change your play experience as opposed to saying they're bringing classes in, you know? I think it's just a clarification thing. Ironically, you can decide whether or not that works. So basically, the gist of it is this is endgame content. It is aimed at players above level 50, and once it is introduced, you will be able to begin a quest line to pursue becoming a ghoul, and your existing character will be able to transform into a ghoul. Throwing in a little bit of a lore observation and some thoughts here, those of you who played Fallout 4 and also watched the TV show will be aware of certain characters becoming ghouls who were not initially ghouls. So we know a lot of them transformed around about the time of the Great War when the bombs dropped, the massive exposure to radiation, instead of killing them, mutated them into ghouls. And we know there are different effects on different people. It's not quite the same experience for all ghouls. But we also know characters like, say, Hancock from Fallout 4. He was an ordinary, everyday fellow who came across a massive stash of very old, very experimental chems, decided to dive right in, and when he woke up, after getting very high, he had discovered he'd turned into a ghoul. And that's the character we meet and have as a companion in Fallout 4. And there's other examples of this in the TV show and stuff as well, so maybe Bethesda will go down some kind of similar road to that. I would imagine it's somewhat established lore for how somebody can subsequently become a ghoul who wasn't around or exposed when the bombs dropped. So logically, that's probably the direction they'll go, but they haven't shared, obviously. We'll find out next year when the update comes out, which will be really cool. We do know, as I say, this is more than just a visual change. There is going to be a big gameplay mechanics shift for people who choose to become ghouls. Speaking of the visual side of it, though, you will actually be able to customize your appearance to some degree. How much is a bit open at the moment. Obviously, ghouls have some variation in their appearance, but not as much as non-ghouls. So it looks like the ghoul transformation will probably be applied to the sort of facial structure, the bone structure, I suppose, of your existing character. We see some ghouls in, particularly in 76, who have hair. We see some ghouls elsewhere who do not have hair. Never seen a ghoul with facial hair, though, so probably not, but who knows? So it'll be interesting to see just how far you can customize the appearance of your character when they have become a ghoul, but there will be some customization options available, so that's going to be interesting to explore. So, gameplay changes. As I say, Bethesda have kind of described this as a class, which is odd given that the game doesn't have classes, but still. It expresses that there is a fundamental change in your gameplay experience once you become a ghoul. We know primarily that there are going to be advantages to being a ghoul, but there are also going to be some pretty big, heavy disadvantages as well to offset that. So it's not something every player is going to want to do. Depending on the way you play, you may not want to do this. On the other hand, it's also really cool, and I think that in itself is going to be a reason to consider taking on the drawbacks as well. I could see myself doing this. If I'm honest, it looks really, really fun. So, obviously, there's certain things we know about ghouls. Bethesda have shared a little bit of information here, and some of it we'll have to do some speculating on. So, Bethesda have told us there will be rad immunity, and in fact, radiation will heal you if you are a ghoul. This lines up with the existing lore. Obviously, ghouls being immune to radiation and seeing them heal. I got a recent surprise in Fallout 4. I forgot glowing ones do that to their ghoul friends. That came as a shock at the time. But yes, if you are exposed to radiation in large quantities, instead of it reducing your health, it'll increase it. So that probably means being a ghoul won't play nice with being a bloodied build. But we'll have to wait and see. Sort of speculating here, but if it's healing you, then radiation won't reduce your health, will it? We also know there is going to be a whole slate of ghoul-exclusive perks introduced with this update. So if you're not a ghoul, you won't get access to them, but if you are, you will. Exactly how this is going to work is a little bit ambiguous at the moment. Not quite sure if this is in addition to the perks you already have, or alongside it, or if it'll replace some of the perks that you have. It may be that certain things don't work anymore when you become a ghoul, so you lose access to those, and get access to these new perks, and you can slot them in. There's apparently quite a large number to choose from. It may also be the case that they offset the ostensible increase in power by putting other drawbacks in, other disadvantages to being a ghoul that kind of reduce your power in other ways, thus keeping it kind of balanced. So we'll have to see exactly how Bethesda are going to go down and figure that one out. But yeah, new perks, new unique perks that are available only to ghouls. So that'll be cool. They have said there will be a number of other benefits as well. Exactly what those are, Bethesda have yet to share. So, they're not telling us everything this far out. Obviously, this particular update is still a work in progress. It's planned for next year. That's, 6 months minimum out? 7 months minimum? More likely closer to the 9-month mark. So things could change in that time. But it sounds like there will be a number of pros and cons to being a ghoul. So, when it comes to the subject of drawbacks to being a ghoul, there's a number of things that come up, obviously, but one of them is whether or not going feral is a danger. So, obviously, that question came up in the presentation. Of course it did. And Bethesda were cagey, shall we say, on their response to that. They didn't say yes, they didn't say no, they did chuckle a bit. We'll have to see. Obviously, it's a question we want to know whether or not it's a thing, whether or not it applies here, whether it isn't. It's kind of up in the air. The law's a little vague on that at the moment. Obviously, we're starting to see some evidence that some ghouls do face that as a genuine danger. They might go feral, but some ghouls never seem to have the slightest issue on that front. So how much of it is type of ghoul, way one became a ghoul, and how much of it is just, the fear of people in the wasteland is still kind of ambiguous. And which way Bethesda might go on this is still fairly ambiguous as well. So I think you guys be interested in finding out what the take on that is. And frankly, so am I. I'm still curious because we don't have a hard and fast answer yet, but that'll be an interesting one to find out more about as well. One thing we do know about it is that it will change how the different factions respond to you once you've become a ghoul. Obviously, major factions, we've got Settlers, we've got Blue Ridge Caravan, the Raiders, and Brotherhood of Steel, and those are out there, and they each will, not surprisingly, have different vibes, different feelings, different attitudes towards ghouls in general. So, with the Settlers, who knows? Bethesda haven't said exactly how this is going to work, but we do know the Settlers already have ghouls among their numbers, so they'll probably be okay with you. Blue Ridge Caravan, they absolutely do have ghouls among their number, so they will probably be okay with you as well. Probably. Raiders, well, they're not the nicest bunch of individuals. I can't see them being exactly respectful of people who look a little different. So, yeah, I can imagine that's going to be a bit rough. And a Brotherhood, now the Brotherhood could be interesting. The Brotherhood might just come down on that we won't have anything to do with you anymore, in which case my character will need a change of clothes. So that might be a thing. Or, slight spoilers, but I'll try and keep them light here. It's possible that because there are choices to make during the Brotherhood of Steel questline, that the choice you make may affect the attitude of the faction towards you. One side of that is more totalitarian and aggressive in their Brotherhood views, the more extreme side of things, and then there's a more liberal side of the Brotherhood as well, and you can go either way. So maybe the choices you make might affect how you end up finally interacting with them, which also, of course, raises the question, if you become a ghoul before you interact with the Brotherhood, what then? Who knows? I guess we'll find out. But, yeah, I don't want everything revealing too early anyway, because then there's no hype for the new thing, is there? But yeah, there we go. Last thing to talk about here is that Bethesda have said that if you decide you don't want to be a ghoul, you will in fact be able to change back. They haven't told us how or what will go on and what will be involved in that yet, just that it's a thing that they are going to include. Now, this is interesting in terms of a lore standpoint. It makes a lot of sense from a gameplay standpoint. Obviously, if you've got a character that you've been playing for potentially hundreds or thousands of hours, the last thing you're going to want is to make a choice that you then regret and feel like you have to dump the character. That would be awful. So, from a gameplay standpoint, being able to undo that, it makes a lot of sense. From a lore standpoint, as far as I am aware, currently, there's no existing lore to suggest that ghouls can de-ghoulify. So whether or not they will sort of work that into the lore and come up with a way of making it work because you're a specific new variety of ghoul, there's a lot of variation in ghouls anyway, so that could work, or they might just go with it being a non-canon game mechanic that just works because of the type of game. I'd be okay with that too. They have made it clear that they want this process to fit in the existing world, so that kind of leans it towards a in-lore canon explanation for it. We'll have to wait and see, but if they ended up with it being basically non-canon, like I say, I'd be okay with it. I think it makes a lot of sense to have it in from a gameplay mechanic standpoint. Explaining it, well, best of luck to the team working on that one, because that's going to be a head-scratcher, I think, for them. Hopefully they can come up with something cool for it. Either way, yeah, if you regret your life choices when it comes to becoming a ghoul, you will be able to backtrack and return to a non-ghoulified smooth-skinned state. So there we go. Really, really cool. New ghoul class, playable character type, shift to your character's nature, new skills, new perks, pros, cons, variations in faction reactions, and change of your look. Yeah, I know a lot of people will be very, very hyped for the idea of being a ghoul. I know at least one person who's in the back of my mind right now who will be very, very keen and has always wanted to be a ghoul, so hopefully that will appeal to a lot of you, and I'm looking forward to diving into this myself. So, yeah, there we go. Playable ghoul. Really, really excited. Hope you guys are as excited as I am. Massive thanks to Bethesda for inviting me down and showing me this stuff a little bit early. Really, really appreciate. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do consider dropping subs and likes. Very much appreciate that one. Social media links, merch store, channel memberships, all that good stuff down below if you want to support the channel that way. Really, really helps out. I hugely appreciate that. Massive thank you to everyone who's done that already. And if you get a chance, join us for live streams as well. We are, of course, playing Fallout 76. Going to be doing this when we get the chance. And yeah, we're playing Fallout 4 and a few other bits and pieces on the side as well. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.